Well, boys and girls and people of the internet, I'm sure you've all seen the meltdown going on about, the PlayStation 5 Pro, the new price point, all that stuff. And I wanted to make sure I was getting all my info right here before I start this, because what I'm wanting to do, go through and I want to look at all of the different, like mid-console refreshes, see what the prices of the original consoles were, what the refreshes came out at, and see if this type of price increase has been kind of standard and it just didn't feel as bad before, or if this is just really that crazy and that unexpected. So here's PlayStation's webpage, their PlayStation blog. You got the PS5 Pro right here. We're going to read the information, see what all comes with it and the pricing, and make sure we're not leaving anything out that needs to, be mentioned. So the PS5 Pro console will be available this holiday at a manufacturer's suggested retail price, or MSRP, of $699.99 US. For anybody that's not an idiot out there, that's $700. I don't know who they think they fool by taking a penny off, but whatever. It will include a 2 terabyte SSD, a DualSense wireless controller, and a copy of Astro's Playroom pre-installed in every PS5 Pro purchase. PS5 Pro is available as a discless console, as if they have it available any other way, with the option to purchase a currently available disk drive for PS5 separately. Now, if we look over here at the disk drive, these are Sony disk drive. We happen to have GameStop and Best Buy top of the list. Sony disk drive for PS5 digital edition consoles, $80. All right, so tack $80 on top of that 700, so $780. And then, if you had sharp eyes when looking at this image, you'll notice this right down here in the corner. Those little words that says vertical stand sold separately. That's right, boys and girls, you don't even get the little piece of plastic to make it stand upright. Included with a $700 asking price, of all things. So we go over here. Here's the Sony vertical stand for PlayStation 5 console from GameStop. This is the one they want you to buy. They don't want you to buy this cheap knockoff. No. The Sony approved for $20. So that brings the asking price, if you want everything included, the disk drive and the vertical stand, both of which, if you look over here at the PS5 on Wikipedia here, were included in the base PS5 version that was released for $500. So they want you to spend $300 more to get the whole kit and caboodle just for a slight, at least from the trailers they showed with the games they showed, a slight increase in graphical fidelity. That is insane. But is this really that bad? Is that unusual as far as refreshes go? Well, I don't know. I didn't really pay much attention throughout most of the past gen ones. To be fair, before we get any further into that, I went and took a look at Xbox to see if they were trying to pull some bullshit like this too. And from what I can tell, they're not, because what they have is 3 new options essentially for the Series X and S that are coming that you can pre-order and all that fun stuff. But they don't have any hardware upgrades. It's just a new coat of paint, so you might have a larger internal SSD, because this one's a Series X, goes up to a 2 terabyte, and I think the 1 terabyte was standard. So maybe it's like $50 more for that version. But this really isn't a mid-gen refresh. It's not some big graphical upgrade. They're not really trying to resell you. This is just if you don't have one and you wanted one and thought about buying one, then hey, here you go. Here's some new looks and maybe a slightly larger hard drive. Maybe that'll sell you. So far, it doesn't appear that Xbox has put their foot in their mouth. But we'll see. That might change. But either way, we're going to start with the 360. And I'm going to skip the PS2. I know they had the PS2 Slim that released partway through its deal, but it wasn't really a hardware upgrade. It just went from being, that big brick under your TV to being a smaller brick under your TV. But if you want to include that and count that as a refresh, the original PS2 released at $300. The Slim released at $300, so there was no change between those two. When you go here to the 360, when they originally released these, they had, the deluxe version for $400 and the standard version for $300. And their mid-gen refresh, their first one at least, was the Xbox 360 Elite. And I remember this because I ended up getting one in 2009. And this kind of blew me away because in 2009 I paid $300 for it because they'd reduced the price down to that. But when they first released the Elite refresh, they actually increased the price up to $480. So that was, $80. It was a 20% increase over the deluxe version of the 360. So there's at least one example of an increase in price when one of these new refreshes first comes out. But within a couple of years, they did, apparently because sales probably weren't that good, drop the price down to a more reasonable figure. Now, to be fair to the PS5 Pro, because it isn't even out yet, and they haven't had a couple years to have a chance to, drop the price down because they're not selling, we're going to stick with the $480 price here when talking about this. So there's at least one example, and it was a 20% markup over the base price of the original. So, all right, there's 20% markup on at least one. And of course, the 360 had like two other refreshes throughout its thing. You had the S, which it released at $300 with a bigger hard drive. Not really any change from the Elite or even the standard Xbox as far as hardware components. And I completely forgot about this one. The E, like right as they announced the Xbox One, where they went and released this one for the same price, just, it looked a little different. So yeah, $300 for the S, $300 for the E, and when the Elite first dropped, it was a price increase up to $480 for a 20% increase there, but they pretty quickly realized that that wasn't going to make any money, and so the prices actually dropped by $100, so a 25% decrease on all of the refreshes following that. And we look over here at the PS3. The original PS3s to drop $500 for the smaller hard drive, $600 for the bigger hard drive. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, you can't compare this to the Xbox because it came with a Blu-ray player and Blu-ray was expensive. And well, that's not what this is about. I'm not comparing, Xbox good because they cheaper here or PlayStation good because they're cheaper here. This is just what was the price of the original console versus the refresh, and how does that compare to what we're seeing now? So $500 and $600. And I had a hard time finding this part on Wikipedia, but for the pricing on the PS3 Slim, so I went and pulled it up over here. And when they went to the Slim, apparently they learned from Xbox's mistake, and they cut that sucker in half, from $600 down to $300. So that was a 50% decrease in price on the mid-gen refresh for the PS3. That's actually pretty insane when you think about it. So you Sony fanboys, you got one hell of a deal during that generation. That's actually impressive. Then we'll go to Xbox One. Whereas the Xbox One, Microsoft were freaking stupid with this, where they forced you to bundle the Kinect together with it when they first released it. So these originally dropped at $500. And nobody really wanted to buy one. Nobody wanted a Kinect. These things were... I knew like two people that had them and they never used them for anything, and when they tried, they didn't work right. So they didn't like them. Now, they learned pretty quick on this because they'd already unbundled the Kinect within a year. Because I got my first Xbox One in November of 14, and it was one of the 500 gigabyte versions, not the terabyte. So it was $350 then, but for what we're looking at here, it was $500 when it came out. And yeah, they were freaking stupid about the Kinect deal, but anyway, that's beside the point. When they went to their mid-gen refresh, if I can find it again on here. Oh god, it was down here somewhere. Either way, when they went to their mid-gen refresh, they actually dropped the price, even on the pricing with the unbundled Kinect, because the Xbox Oh, Series S, not Series X, just the is that what they call it? Was Series S? The hell'd you go? Either way, it doesn't matter. They released a 500 gigabyte hard drive version that was $300, a terabyte version that was $350, and a 2 terabyte version that was $400. And so, even if you compare this to the pricing after the Kinect was unbundled, it was a $50 decrease for any of them that had hard drives of the same size, but with the better hardware. And the whole point of the hardware on these, the big sell point was always that, oh, well, it could, support 4K. Which, of course, you had to have a 4K TV for that to even matter, but hey, there you go. Some people bought into them. So $50 off of, say, a $400 price at that point. What is that, like a 12% decrease? So it's a little bit of a decrease, and you could write some of that off, especially at this point in time, to the difference in manufacturing, materials for things, because we really started seeing, like with TVs at this point in time, where they went to making them with LED lights instead of using like plasma and cathode tubes, which dropped the price way down. Because like my current TV, it's a 65-inch LED, and you can go buy these at like my local Walmart right now, and they're no more than $400 for this same brand that I've got in this one. It's a Hisense. And of course, you go back like 20 years ago when plasma TVs started being a thing, and you still have the old cathode ones around, like a plasma TV this size. Oh, that was every bit of like $2,200. It was still like $1,000 even for a cheaper cathode tube one. It's just you can see as materials change, certain things really did drop in price, and that did affect gaming consoles. And I think that's part of why we saw these big drops in prices during like the end of the 360 and up to the Xbox One and PS4 era. Just a little food for thought. Just something I was thinking about. Oh, here we go. Yeah, with the Series S. The 300, 350, and 400, depending on what size hard drive you got. Then when you go to the PS4, these first released at, I believe it was $400. Where's it at over here? Yeah, introductory price, $400. So they did the smart thing and didn't bundle something stupid like the Kinect onto it like Xbox did. And when they went to the PS4 Slim, which I had a hard time finding this number on Wikipedia too, so I pulled it up over here. The PS4 Slim actually dropped by $100 by the time it came out. So you went from 400 to 300 with the hardware update. And I'm pretty sure these also were supposed to be able to support 4K. You can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think they did. And so that's a 25% decrease even on just the previous generation of consoles from Sony. And then you get to the whole deal with the PS5. And the one with the disk drive was $500, and it had its vertical stand included. And then their digital only was $400. Which, if you think about it, the PS5 Pro was not an upgrade over the PS5 that came with the disk drive. It's an upgrade over the digital only. So really, our price increase isn't from 500 to 700 or 800 if you include the disk drive. And yeah, I guess you count the 500 to the 800 with disk drive and vertical stand. So that's $300. That's a 60% price increase over this version. And if you consider it an upgrade from the digital version, it's still, oh God, that's more. It's up to, yeah, $320 by the time you include the vertical stand. Holy crap, man. Well, you just think about this, right? Even on the one that I'm sure most people compare it to, this one right here, that was $500, the one that came with the disk drive. By the time you get it kitted out where it can do all the things this could with the slightly higher graphical fidelity, it is a 60% increase in the price that you or anyone else paid when they first bought a PS5. 60%. The only other increase we saw on this list was with the 360 when they first released their Elite version, which it was $400 to $480. And that's only a 20% increase. And to be fair, that increase only lasted for a couple of years, and then they dropped it down quite steep when they realized it was not selling. Maybe that'll happen with Sony and the PS5 Pro. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll insist upon $700 for this without the vertical stand, of course. That's sold separately. I don't know. Too early to tell on that, but as it stands at this current price point with the things that it does not include, I don't see these selling very well. And maybe I'm crazy, but I always thought that the most of your sales from your mid-gen refreshes weren't from people that already bought the earlier version. It was typically from people that had held off because either they couldn't afford it then or they weren't sure if they wanted one, and this was a way to try and bring more, new people into the console, into your market. I just don't see this doing that. Like, why would you go pay $700 for this when you can see that from their own showcase that yes, it was an improvement, but it wasn't much of an improvement for those games. And like, I don't know anybody that would see that and then see 700 versus 500 and then realize that, oh man, you mean I got to drop another $100 because this doesn't come with a disk drive and this doesn't come with a plastic stand? I don't see why anybody would look at this and think they could justify spending an additional $200 to $300 when they just go buy the regular PS5 with the disk drive and a stand for $500. I don't see it happening. Whoever's behind the decision on this at Sony and at PlayStation, they are out of their damn mind. Like, maybe they just really felt like they had to have a mid-gen refresh because they've done so well with them in the past. But the reason you did so well with them in the past is PS3, you cut the price in half. So, of course, people went out and bought it. That was an incredible deal. PS4, you dropped $100 off the price. That was 25%. That was a good deal. This, having to spend an extra $300 to get a PS5 that has slightly better hardware and then to get your disc drive and your stand, that's just... There's going to be very, very few people that are going to pay that. I don't know what kind of market they think they have with the whale community, but I mean, if somebody's got that kind of money to go spend on something, why wouldn't they just go and drop another... honestly, it's probably like another $1,000 to $1,200 and just get an absolute top of the line gaming PC that they won't have to touch for another 4 or 5 years. Because this is the mid-gen refresh, mind you, not just the fresh console. Probably within another couple years, there's going to be the PS6. And they'll be wanting you to go and drop another... At the rate they're going, they'll probably want $1,000 for that. Man, like, I've never been a huge... I never really got on the PlayStation side. I was typically always on the Xbox side of things, but I always liked PlayStation. I thought the consoles were fine. I thought the games they had for them were good. And for people that really liked, their stuff like their Final Fantasies and things, they always had a reason to go get a PlayStation for those games. And, if they wouldn't get them right away, when you go and drop the price in half halfway through the lifetime or by a quarter, like, I'll admit, somebody that just wants to play Final Fantasy, I think they could justify going and spending $300 partway through a refresh on the console. And by that point, they typically had, like 2 or 3 other titles, like Final Fantasy games they'd go grab and play, and that would be their thing with this. Sony, you don't have any good exclusives. And all of your good exclusives, by the time the refresh comes around, by the time 2 or 3 years, you've been moving them over to PC now. The incentive is not there for people. And this price hike, like, oh my God. Like, forget Xbox. You just look at PlayStation's history with this. They have in the PS2, if you want to call that a refresh, they maintained the same price. They didn't charge more. They charged way less in the PS3 generation. They charged a fair bit less in the PS4 generation. But now they want to increase the price by 60%? If you don't include the disk drive and the vertical sand, you don't care about those, don't think they matter, okay. It's still a 40% increase in price. And that's still outrageous. I don't know. I really don't know. It hurts my head to think about this. All I can say is somebody at Sony or PlayStation, whoever approved of this, when these sales numbers come in and they don't make a dime, and they probably cost them a lot getting this stuff shipped around everywhere just for it to sit or get shipped back to them when it doesn't sell, somebody's going to get fired. Somebody is going to get fired over this. This is going to be a travesty. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, you'd like to listen to me talk, whatever, you can give me a like, give me a subscribe, whatever, or don't. I mean, it's fine, it's cool, whatever. I'm kind of having fun making these videos anyway, but what I'm really interested in is, like, leave me some comments. Tell me what you think about all this. If you think these are gonna sell, if you think Sony's gonna be all right after this, how long do you think it'll take before they drop the price? Because they're gonna have to drop the price on these, right? Like, unless they rip the standard PS5 from the market when they put these in, there's no way these will sell. And even if they do that, I still don't think they'll sell well enough. This is crazy to me. Yeah, but anyway, peace out, stay classy. Hope you let me talk at you again sometime. Be safe, and I guess don't buy a PS5 Pro, because holy shit, you're an idiot if you do.